the author of The President Will See You Now, former executive assistant to President Ronald Reagan, Peggy Grande. Peggy, good to have you here. You know, when you think about what's happening, what's been transpiring with all these intelligence leaks, help us put this in perspective historically. I mean, when you look back at, for example, President Reagan, did he have to deal with anything at all that was similar?
Well, no president likes leaks, and no president should tolerate leaks, and so I have to imagine that Ronald Reagan would have taken a firm and decisive stand, and also would have been very diligent about determining what was fact and what was fiction, and I think that's what President Trump is going to have to do here. Of course, President Trump's challenge now is that it's a 24/7 news cycle. Back in the day, if there were leaks during the Reagan era, it maybe was covered on the 3 networks at night or in the morning paper the next day, and so it was just a very different time.
Do you think that there are people within the White House, within government, that are deliberately trying to conspire against him?
Well, I certainly can't comment on that, and I wouldn't attempt to put words in President Reagan's mouth, but I do know that every president faces their own challenge, and I think with the speed of information and the availability of global information, I think that a leak that ordinarily could have been tamped down pretty easily during a Reagan White House time goes viral and is around the world in moments, whether or not it's true.
Yeah, no, we are. Actually, here's a picture of you and President Reagan together. You know, you think about the political struggles that he faced, right? I mean, I can remember at the time people kept saying, you know, he was going to be the worst possible thing for the country, and they made fun of his wife, for example, because she apparently consulted astrologers. I mean, the media piled on in a major way with President Reagan, and yet he survived just fine. And you know what? He grew our economy. That's what mattered. He helped us with our military. He made us safe, both economically and internationally. So how did he get through some of that, well, blatant bias that was directed against him, Peggy?
Well, some of it is just the luxury of time and looking back. And in 1984, he won in a landslide. But some of us forget that in 1976, he was not the party's choice. We went with Gerald Ford. And in 1980, the party was very split as to who wanted George Bush and who wanted Ronald Reagan. And so we have the gift of perspective looking back now that we didn't have at the time. And so I hope that people will give President Trump the time he needs to do the things that he wants to do and intends to do, and that we'll give him the gift of time also to look back, and hopefully he will have great accomplishments that we can
he's not
apply.
really getting that right now. I mean, you know, I asked you whether or not you thought people were conspiring against him. I think that in fact is part of the issue here. There are many people out there that did not want him to win. As you point out, we're in a 24/7 news cycle right now, and there are a lot of people internally within the White House that are holdovers from the Obama years, and they are directing their anger very much at him and trying actively to take him down.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I love what he's doing now, where he's getting out into the world. He's meeting with world leaders. Ronald Reagan did that brilliantly, and his form of politics and diplomacy was very personal, and it was very relationship-based. And we saw that during the post-presidency years when I worked for him, when there was a parade of world leaders who came from all over the globe to visit with him in his office in Century City. They didn't have to do that for protocol or diplomatic reasons. They did that because they wanted to. They liked him. They had a relationship. And so how much more can be accomplished politically if we focus on the personal aspect and the relationship? And I think that's fantastic what President Trump is doing this week to get out there and meet with people.
Peggy Grande, thank you very much.